Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy!
It's here. It's finally here. I've been waiting years for this and it's finally in my hands. The follow-up to the greatest Spider-Man game ever made. I can't wait to play the shit out of this.
So this is the highly anticipated Spider-Man 2 everyone's been going on about, right? You're a bit late. I mean, it's been out for over 20 years. But as it turns out, I completely missed this one when it first came out as well. Yep, somehow it just web swung straight under my radar. And by the time I found out it even existed, there were already new and better Spidey games out, so I just never bothered to go back and take a look at it. But it seems I'm by no means the only one. Yeah, people always talk about the first Spider-Man on PS1, but they rarely mention the second. Many don't even realise it exists. So yeah, for the first time on the channel, I'm reviewing a game that I never actually played back when I was a kid. Don't expect it to be the last. But before we do that, so in the previous video I asked if we could try and make it to 50 subscribers, and we more than smashed that goal. So I'd originally recorded a bit where I thanked all you guys and told you how grateful I am before asking if we could make it to 100 subscribers. But then not only did we reach 100, we actually surpassed it. So yeah, thanks. Thanks for making me have to re-record this bit, you daft fuckers. I'm just kidding. Please don't unsubscribe. But joking aside, I'm completely blown away. Thank you so much to everyone who subscribed. You guys are awesome. You don't know how much it means to me to know that there are people out there who enjoy my content. But of course, there's nowhere to go but up from here. Well, no actually, it takes just one wrong step to lose it all in this day and age, but never mind that. So, we've reached 100 subscribers. So let's see if we can make it to 200. That's right, we're going for the double century. So if you enjoy my content but haven't subscribed yet, I would appreciate it so much if you would do so. Let's try and get to 200 subscribers and beyond. Watch your back, Mr. Beast, I'm coming for you. And now for our feature presentation. So unlike its predecessor, Spider-Man 2 Electric Boogaloo, yeah I know it's not an original joke but I had to do it, and it is somewhat on point, was not developed by Neversoft but instead by Vicarious Visions, but it was still published by our good friends at Activision, although this was still before they got their big raging hard-on for squeezing every single solitary penny from our wallets, so we should be okay. So as suggested by the 2 in the title, this is a direct sequel to the Neversoft game. We get a quick recap of the previous game, and the first thing you'll notice is the improved graphics in the cutscenes. Well, I certainly don't remember the first game looking like this, not on PlayStation at least. I'm guessing this is from the Dreamcast version, because yeah, the PS1 version sure as shit didn't look this good. Well, at least they finally caught up. We come to the main menu, and the next thing you'll notice is the lack of the cool theme song from the first game. Now it's just some generic sounding techno track. If I wasn't the happy and optimistic soul I am, I might consider this a sign of things to come. So you choose new game, select a difficulty, oh look, Pussy Boy mode's back again, and then it's time for the intro. Oh shit, it's Darth Sidious. Not really, it's just Electro, looking slightly less ridiculous than how he does in Amazing Spider-Man 2. Anyway, he's here to steal another science thingamajigger device. Why are all these villains always after some kind of silly sciencey thing? Have they not got any other ideas? Next we get a newspaper headline, and that son of a bitch! He did it! He actually did it! I said that all the way back in the Spider-Man 1 video! Previously on DayVeeJay. So Ock gets deep fried, you escape the base, and then Captain America turns up in his fancy fucking ship and saves you. Thanks mate. Turn up at the end after I've done all the fucking work. Where were you when I needed you? Probably take all the credit too, huh? And the motherfucker actually did! And the police are still after us. Thanks mate. All you had to do was come out and say we were innocent. But no, because you need to have all the credit to yourself. Nice one, you prick. Anyway, it's on to the first level, and guess who's back?
Welcome, true believers. Stan Lee here to bring you yet another scintillating tale of superhero daring-do.
Yep, the motherfucker's everywhere. You can't escape from him. So the gameplay is pretty much identical to the previous game. You have just about all the same abilities as before. You can run around and jump, climb on walls, web swing, use the targeted web thing, and beat up bad guys. So yeah, kind of disappointing that there's nothing really new in terms of abilities, although to be honest, I'm not really sure what more they could have added. Once again, we have the blue question marks that make Black Cat come and, hey, you're not Black Cat. Not unless just come down with a pretty severe case of werewolf syndrome. That's a real thing, by the way, look it up. Nope, turns out we've got Beast from the X-Men as our guide this time. I mean, I guess I understand. After everything Black Cat went through in the previous game, I wouldn't blame her if she was like, fuck that, I've had enough of this shit. So in the first level, you're just going around beating the shit out of some random bad guys who, for some reason, are just hanging around on rooftops. Yeah, plenty of opportunities for profit up there, guys. And why are we even beating them up anyway? I mean, it's not like they're doing anything wrong. Although I guess they're trespassing. And we all know that's the most evil and depraved crime of all. So again, you have pretty much all the same moves as before. You can punch and kick, do jump attacks, web them up and use impact weapon. And you can also pick things up and throw them. There's also some new combo attacks, but they never really added much. And in the end, like in the previous game, combat pretty much just amounts to mashing the punch and kick button, while also throwing in some weapon and jump attacks every once in a while. Anyway, after you've done that, that's the level done. Beast gives you his approval and now the real story can begin. So in the second mission, old Spidey's just minding his own business, reading about that lying sack of shit Captain America, but then there's some hooligans that need taken care of. So one major difference between this game and its predecessor is that you can actually go down on the street, but only when the game feels like letting you. And yeah, turns out there's not a whole lot you can do down there that you can't do on a rooftop. That's always been a funny thing with Spidey games. Back in the old days we used to be like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we could actually go down on the street? But when we finally got the games that let you do that, we found that, oh, it's not that much different to being on the rooftops. Even in the modern Spidey games that's still kind of a thing. I guess it's just the idea of being able to go somewhere we couldn't before that's exciting. Even when the place itself just isn't really. Anyway, you've just got to beat up a bunch of guys, then use your Spidey compass to track down their leader. You follow them to a warehouse, beat up some more baddies, and then oh shit, it's Shocker! Shocker! So now it's time for the first boss fight. And this was when I first started to realise, oh, it's going to be one of these games, isn't it? Yeah, this looks like it should be a simple fight, but it turned out to be harder than you'd ever expect it to be. He just keeps spamming his attacks, so it's hard to get near him without getting hit. The best way to drop his health is to either throw barrels at him or yank crates onto him. But the problem is it takes so long to pick something up, then turn around and throw it, or to target a crate and then yank it in the right direction, that you just end up getting hit. So then I tried the old in-out jump attack trick that proved so helpful in the previous game, but that didn't work either because it doesn't do that much damage, and as you lower his health, his attacks become harder to dodge. So unless you can time every one of your attacks perfectly, you're gonna make mistakes that lead to you getting hit and eventually he kills you. So I finally gave up on that and went back to doing what the game told me to do, and I've managed to yank a couple boxes onto him. Yeah, after all that, that's all it took. For fuck's sake. So you leave him for the cops and then head over to the airfield that one of the thugs talked about. But first you've got to do this bit where you beat up a few more guys and then find a bomb. Oh, sorry. A bomb!
A bomb!
So now you've got to go around this maze of streets to find the coloured keys to disarm it. But it's annoying because you don't have loads of time, and every time you fail the locations of the keys change, so you can't even memorise where they are. Once you've done that, you finally arrive at the airfield. And oh shit, it looks like these guys are packing some serious heat. So I guess the game wants you to be stealthy here, using the tall lampposts to stay out of sight of the bad guys and swing across the airfield without being seen to destroy the guns, but it didn't really work for me. As soon as you destroy one of the guns, any nearby enemies are alerted, and once one knows where you are, they all do. So you've just got to swing from one gun to the next, but they're pretty accurate and do a lot of damage, so it did take a few attempts. So you go inside the hangar and then we get to this bit, and this was a real piece of shit. So you've got to stop the plane from crashing and blowing up. Speed is key here, but you're just thrown in with no real idea of what you're doing. You're told to stop the plane with your web, but that doesn't work, and before you know it, it's crashing through all these fucking barrels and blows up. So then you try to pick up the barrels and hoy them out the way, but it takes so fucking long to pick them up and throw them that you just can't do it before the plane hits them. I also hate how long it takes to get back up when you get hit by the plane. You don't even have to get hit. You only have to touch the fucking thing and it's like you got bounced off the bonnet of a speeding car. So then I went back to trying to stop the plane. I managed to web one of the propellers, but that just made the fucker veer off to the side and crash into a fucking wall. So how the fuck are you supposed to do this shit? I actually ended up looking up a fucking walkthrough because I was just so sick of this shit. So turns out what the game doesn't tell you is that you can use your fucking impact weapon when you're jumping. So all you have to do is jump and fire your balls of web at the fucking barrels to blow them up before the fucking plane hits them. Then when the plane gets to the end, now you can web the propellers without worrying it's going to crash into anything and fucking explode. But it was still hard to target the propellers because the plane's still moving and the targeting isn't very good. So yeah, I hated this fucking bit and never want to play through it ever again. Next, you've got to follow the helicopter that left the airfield, using the signal strength from your tracker to know which direction to go in. Not a lot to say here, although as you'll notice, you can't go down on the street anymore, with no actual reason provided. I mean, in the previous game you had the fog, which I guess was meant to be poisonous, but here if you fall or swing too low, then old Spidey's just like, oh, well I guess I'm dead now. Yeah, I suppose it would have been difficult to come up with another reason for why you can't go down on the street. Then you end up at the train yard. Again, you're told to be stealthy, but it makes no difference. So as you make your way through, you'll notice these buttons that you can interact with, but don't seem to do anything. So what are they for? Well, turns out they're part of one of the absolute dumbest parts of a video game I've ever fucking seen. You see, eventually you'll find your way blocked by these electronic gates that you need to solve a puzzle to open. And do you see it? Do you see what's so fucking stupid about it?
You fucking Spider-Man, you daft cunt! Fucking climb over! Use your web! Are you fucking kidding me?
Who in the absolute fuck came up with this shit? Seriously, whose fucking idea was this? I mean, first of all, yeah, this is really what we want from a fucking Spider-Man game, going around solving daft fucking puzzles. That's what made the first game such a hit, right? And yeah, I know there was that one bit in the sewers that was pretty much the same thing, but it made a hell of a lot more sense there and was a lot more straightforward. And secondly, the only way this could be any dumber is if this was a fucking Superman game or whatever. So anyway, that's what the buttons are for. You've got to press them in the correct order to make all the lights turn from red to green to open the gates. And I'm just going to straight up admit that I just went and looked up another walkthrough. After already going through the bit with the plane, I was in no fucking mood to spend God knows how long fucking around with this shit. But ignoring just the sheer fucking absurdity of it, this is still a stupidly designed puzzle. You see, there's one just like it in Toy Story 2, and while that one was annoying as well, it wasn't as bad because the buttons you have to press are all together, and you can clearly see what they all do. But in this game, they're spread throughout the areas you've already come through, so now you've got to go back, all the while memorising which buttons do what and which ones you've already pressed. You'll probably end up playing with a pen and paper to write down all the different combinations, just like the fucking puzzle doors in Skyrim, where you've got no choice but to try combination after combination, ticking off the ones you've already tried until you... Oh. They were on the back of the Dragon Claw all along. I've been writing down and trying all these combinations for over 10 fucking years. And they were on the backs of the claws. So anyway, after you get past that stupid shit, you've just got to run around a bit more, beating up bad guys, and then you have to chase after a train. But it's not so simple because Sandman keeps erecting walls in your way that you've got to break through to continue. This was annoying because you've got to throw barrels and shit at the walls to break through them, but you've also got Sandman chasing after you. And we've already seen how slow Spidey is to pick things up and throw them, so when you try to, half the time you just end up getting hit. Although you can throw shit at him as well to drop his health, which makes him fuck off for a few moments. So you get aboard the train and run into the Beetle, first time hearing of him, who escapes with the briefcase, but then you find an invitation for a ball or some shit. What is this, fucking Cinderella now? Next we see the bad guys having a super secret meeting at their evil clubhouse, where we find out more about Electro's plan. Apparently the device he's after amplifies the body's electrical energy, and if he can get all the pieces, then he'll be like a fucking god of electricity or something. And, look, it's a fucking Spider-Man game, just go with it. They're then joined by another well-known Spidey villain, Hammerhead, and then... this happens.
Destroying Spider-Man. A man stands alone, facing the web slinger. This is the time for what? For individual achievement. But in a mob? Part of a team. Spider-Man!
Do you notice anything familiar about how this scene plays out? Is it just me, or does it kind of resemble the baseball bat scene from The Untouchables? Can you see it? I mean, obviously you don't see a guy get his brains bashed in, but aside from that, it's almost identical. I mean, it could just be a coincidence, but as we all know...
True coincidences are rare.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I know I'm lingering on this, but I just find it so weird that I'm playing a Spider-Man game for kids with a reference to The Untouchables in it. Just why? What kid's gonna get that? And who decided to put that in? Was that just the guy who wrote the story's favourite film or something? Yeah. Weird. So now you've got to go to the ball to save the scientist who made the electric device thing from Hammerhead and his boys. And just look at these fucking guys. Could they be any more of a fucking stereotype? Fucking pinstripe suits, fedoras. Look, they've even got fucking Tommy guns as well. So this is pretty much a retread of the bank robbery mission from the first game. The fucking Bugsy Malone gang here have taken the partygoers hostage, and you've got to rescue them before they get their guts pumped full of lead. Then you find Hammerhead, and it's time for another boss fight. And this was when the game seriously started to suck a great big veiny fat one. This fight was total shit, and makes clear a lot of my problems with the game. So you've got old Chrome Dome here chasing you around with his fucking Tommy gun, and the best way to beat him is to wait for him to charge at you, and then jump out the way so he brains himself on a fucking wall, and then run in and beat the shit out of him. So it's similar to the fight with Rhino in the first game, but while that fight was good, this one wasn't, for a couple reasons. Firstly, the fight with Rhino takes place in a wide open area where it's easier to move around, but here you're in cramped corridors where it's easy to get stuck. And then you've got the fucker constantly firing his fucking Tommy gun at you, which he's surprisingly accurate with, meaning it can still hit you even when you're out of his reach, which wouldn't have been too bad if it wasn't for the biggest reason why this fight sucks so much. The camera, which is exactly the same as in the previous game. There's been no improvements made whatsoever. In fact, I think it might even be a bit worse. It looks like it's been zoomed in a little, meaning you can see even less of what's going on around you. But once again, you also have no actual control over it. It just follows you and faces the direction you're going in, meaning you can't see what's going on behind you. And that's a big problem in this fight because with the fucker following you the way he does, you're always having to run away to get some distance. But you can't see if he's getting ready to charge or if he's aiming at you. Then when you turn around to see where he is, he's already coming at you, which usually ends with you getting hit. The best way to hurt him is to throw the plant pots at him. But again, because you can't see what he's doing, you'll go to pick something up, which again is slow as fuck, but then when you turn around, the prick's already fucking moved somewhere else. And then he either hits you and destroys the fucking pot, or you throw it and fucking miss. Compare this with the Rhino fight, which is set in a wide open area and has the camera zoomed out, so you can see what the fuck's going on. It made the fight a lot less frustrating, but not too easy. It was still a bit challenging. In the end, I won this fight pretty much just through luck. I would just run away from the motherfucker and keep jumping around in the hope that he would charge at me and stun himself, and then hit him as much as I could when he did. And once again, as soon as I beat it, the first thing I did was save the game, because I'm a fuck doing this shit again. So with Hammerhead defeated, you go to find the scientist, which has already been carried off by Sandman. You try to get help from Dr. Connors, but turns out he's on his reptile period again, so now you've got to go and deal with that shit. You head over to the lab, and the game really doesn't get any better from here. Pretty much everything from here on out is an annoying load of shit. For some reason, this game just seems so much harder than the first one. Frustratingly so. Like this bit where you've got to get to the top of this shaft by swinging between these platforms, which wouldn't have been too bad if it wasn't so hard to time your swings to avoid the electrical discharges that send you plummeting to your death. And it only gets more frustrating from here because now you've got to get to the top of this bit. And look at this! It just keeps on going. Fucking high enough for you? This bit was annoying as fuck because in addition to all the fucking hazards you've got to avoid, half the time the fucking targeted swinging only seems to work when it fucking feels like it. You'll target somewhere you want to swing to and Spidey'll do it. But before he lands, he'll just fucking let go and send himself all the way to the fucking bottom so you have to start all over again. Anyway, you eventually find the lizard and it's time for another boss fight. Although I'm not quite sure what his deal is considering he was friendly in the first game. Although now that I think about it, you never did actually save him from the sewers after he was locked up by Venom. You just left him down there. So I don't know, maybe that's why he's so pissed off now. So this fight wasn't too bad. Nowhere near as frustrating as the last one at least. You first got to do a quick little puzzle thing to make the antidote to turn the lizard back into Dr. Connors, and then have to pick up the antidote web, although it doesn't so much turn him back as it does just stun him so you can smack the ever-loving shit out of him. So once you turn Dr. Connors back, he tells you about the device that Electro's after, and that he still needs one thing to make it work, but doesn't know what it is. So then you head over to Dr. Watts' lab. Get it? She's working on a project with electricity and her name's Watts. Funny. But then Sandman turns up again and we have to fight him now. This was probably the best fight out of the whole game. Why? Because look, it's in an open area and the camera isn't trying to crawl up your fucking arse, so you can actually see what's going on. It's pretty simple, but not completely straightforward. You can't just hurt the guy. First you've got to spin the valve to turn up the water pressure, and then turn on one of the pipe things, and then hit him as much as you can while he's stunned. Rinse and repeat until he's done.
Good riddance.
So with that out of the way, we go to the museum to confront Electro, who's after a gem or something that'll finally let him use the device to make his Zeus cosplay fantasy a reality. Well, over my dead body, Sparky.
Help me, Spider-Man!
Oh. How you doing?
No, you lost me. I can get behind fucking alien symbiotes and guys whose bodies can become sand whenever they feel like it, and half men, half lizards, but electricity causing inanimate suits of armour to come to life like the statues in the Deathly Hallows? No. Just no. So once you've dealt with the fucking 7 samurai, you then have to, oh for fuck's sake, are you fucking serious? We've got to do more of this shit? We've got to climb another fucking shaft? You've got a thing for shafts, haven't you? I don't know, you just seem to really like shafts. Is that why there's so many shafts in this game? Are you trying to fucking tell us something? So this bit's about as annoying as you'd expect. You've got to get to the top while avoiding all the electrical shit going around the walls and raining down on you. But again, cause you can't control the fucking camera, you've just got to rely on timing your movements right to not get hit and sent back to the bottom again. And by this point, all Spidey's one-liners were really doing my fucking head in. Yeah, I know he's meant to be an annoying smartass, but there were times, like this, where I just wished he would shut the fuck up. He's almost as bad as fucking Flick. In fact, most of the characters are. Most of the bosses have just a couple one-liners that they spout incessantly to the point that I actually had to turn my speakers off a couple times. It was so fucking irritating. So after you get past that shit, finally you get to fight Electro. This fight's simple. Just avoid his attacks, swing onto the platform, slap him around until he throws you off, and then do it again and again and again until his health reaches 0. But that was just the foreplay. Now we get to the real final fight. Electro's got the jewel and now has everything he needs to be the god of electricity. And here's a fun bit of trivia for you. The final fight takes place on top of some random skyscraper, but it was originally meant to be at the top of the World Trade Center. But they had to change that because of, well, you know, the whole plane hitting it thing. Yeah. This fight wasn't much fun either. Electro's invincible in his current form, so first you've got to destroy the generator things on the tower to stop him recharging his health, and then a bunch more over here. And then what? Oh yeah, Spidey, you're usually so fucking talkative. Now you're not gonna help? So what you have to do is try and get Electro to shock one of these pylon things, which stuns him for a few moments so you can slap the shit out of him. Simple as that. The problem is it's a bit of a pain getting him to shock the pylons. All you can really do is just stand around them and wait for him to try and shock you, and hope that he gets the pylon, but half the time he just keeps missing. It just seems pretty random when he'll actually hit the fucking pylon so you can hurt him. Anyway, you just do that a bunch of times and that's it for the so-called god of electricity. So with Electro defeated and the city saved once more, perhaps now old Spidey will finally get the recognition he deserves. What the fuck? Fucking Thor? He wasn't even fucking there! Are you fucking kidding me? But all joking aside, that is pretty funny. And yes, I am only now getting the joke. It's the fucking Daily Bugle, of course they're not going to credit Spider-Man with saving the city. So I guess it wasn't Captain America taking all the credit for himself. but I still don't see him coming out to correct this blatant misinformation. So yeah, fuck you, Steve. You suck. Worst Avenger ever. Team Stark all the fucking way. So that's Spider-Man 2, Enter Electro. And why is it that no one really talks about this one? I'll give you a clue. It's fucking shite, mate. Well, that might be a bit harsh. It's not a bad game per se. I mean, the first game was good. So this one ought to be too, considering it's virtually identical, but it's just not. And actually comes across as a bit of a rush job. I mean, first of all, it does almost nothing to improve over the first game. Gameplay wise, like I said, it's virtually identical. The combat's the same, the movement's the same, everything. And the few things it does add are so minor that they barely make a difference. And yeah, all that stuff works fine. I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But I still would have liked to see some more substantial changes and improvements made. And then there's the stuff they actually seem to make worse. Like the camera being more difficult and the targeted swinging only working half the time, which I don't recall being a problem in the first game. And these lead into my biggest criticism about the game, and that's how frustrating it is. Out of all the games I've played for this channel, this is definitely on the upper end of the scale of ones that pissed me off. This seemed a lot harder than the first one, and it seems like that was by design. Like they saw that god-awful annoying as fuck bit in the first game, you know the one, the underwater tunnel where you have to swing between the fucking platforms, and were like, I know, let's make this the whole fucking game. I also suspect that this might have been done deliberately to make the game seem longer, because the story is actually quite short. All these long shafts, daft fucking puzzles, and annoying fucking boss fights. Most of my time playing it was stuck in these fucking bits. I just think this would have been a much more enjoyable experience if they toned down the difficulty a bit. On top of that, there are issues on the presentation side. The graphics are fine, there's been a bit of improvement since the first game, there's a bit more detail in the environments and character models and cutscenes, but the story isn't very good. And I'm not saying that the original was by any means an Oscar winner, but it did seem a lot more coherent and better written than this. I wasn't a fan of the voice acting, and again, the original was no masterpiece in that regard, but it was still superior. And the problem isn't so much bad line reading or the actors not trying hard enough, but more so that they're trying too hard. The bad guys all sound like over-the-top cartoon villains, to the point where I couldn't take them seriously and found them annoying at times, while those in the first game had just that right level of cheese without becoming over the top and ridiculous. I didn't think the soundtrack was as good either. Admittedly, I didn't care that much for the music in the first game, but there were still a couple tracks that stood out, including the reworked version of the original theme that for some reason is absent here, but I just felt the music in this game didn't have as much personality and sounded a lot more generic. I was also disappointed that almost none of the characters from the first game appear in this one. Aside from Spidey and the Lizard, I guess, not a single one returns. No Venom, no Black Cat, no Jameson, Mary Jane, Daredevil, Human Torch, no one. So that was a shame. I would have liked to see some of those guys come back, especially since the new characters that replace them really aren't that interesting. Although that might be based on personal bias, considering most of the villains in this game are ones that I just never particularly cared for. Alright, let's wrap this up because this video is getting out of hand. So in conclusion, Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro is a frustrating but decent enough sequel to the Neversoft game, but one that fails to live up to its reputation or build upon its foundations. So it doesn't come as much of a surprise that it's not as well known or remembered, because it's just kind of meh really. It's fine enough, but there's not much reason to go back to it except for maybe curiosity if you missed it back in the day. I'd just stick with the first one if I was you, and that's about it. Man, I got scathing in this one. I hope I didn't piss off too many of you guys. Thank you very much for watching the video, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, then leave a like. If you didn't, then tell me to go fuck myself. Once again, thank you so much to everyone who subscribed to the channel, you guys are the best. And if you're not subscribed yet, I will be extremely grateful if you would do so. Let's try and make it to 200 subscribers. Thanks for watching.